A grown man walks into a shop. He pays real money. Not for a phone, not for a watch, not for a vacation. He pays for a box of tiny plastic soldiers. They are unbuilt, unpainted, silent, and somehow this is only the beginning. Before these soldiers ever reach a table, he will cut them from plastic frames, glue them together, prime them, paint their armor, shade their weapons, highlight their helmets, build terrain around them, buy rules for them, buy cases to protect them. Then he will buy more, and more, and more. To outsiders, it looks impossible to understand. Why would adults spend hundreds, sometimes thousands, on little plastic warriors? Why would someone spend months painting an army that fits inside a shoebox? And how did this strange hobby become powerful enough to help turn Games Workshop, the company behind Warhammer, into a business with hundreds of millions in annual revenue? This is not just a story about toys. It is a story about obsession, identity, art, competition, and the strange human need to build tiny worlds we can control. To understand it, we have to enter the universe of Warhammer. For someone who has never heard of it, Warhammer can sound absurd. At its simplest, Warhammer is a tabletop miniature game. Players collect armies of small plastic models. They build them, they paint them. Then they place them on a table filled with ruins, alien landscapes, Gothic buildings, and battlefield scenery. After that, they fight, not with screens, not with controllers, with dice, rulers, rule books, and imagination. The most famous version is Warhammer 40,000. Fans call it 40K. It is set in the 41st millennium, a nightmare future where humanity is trapped in endless war. There are superhuman space marines, alien swarms called tyrannids, green-skinned orcs who treat war like a sport, Necrons, ancient robot dynasties waking from tomb worlds, chaos armies corrupted by dark gods. Every faction has its own history, its own heroes, its own look, its own tragedy. This is where the trap begins. Because Warhammer is not one hobby, it is several hobbies wearing the same armor. For some people, it is a strategy game. For others, it is painting. For others, it is collecting. For others, it is lore. There are people who own armies but rarely play. There are people who play every week but hate painting. There are people who spend 40 hours on one miniature just to enter a painting competition. And there are people who simply love owning a shelf full of tiny warriors from a universe they grew up with. That is why Warhammer is hard to compare with normal board games. You do not just open the box and play. You enter a system, a world, a pipeline, and that pipeline has a price. A beginner can start small. A Warhammer 40,000 introductory set can cost around $69. That sounds manageable. Then comes the next step. A combat patrol box, often used as a small starter army, can cost around $170. Now you have models, but they are gray plastic, so you need paint. One small pot of Citadel paint can cost around $4.55. That does not sound terrifying until you realize one army might need black, white, red, blue, silver, gold, skin tone, leather, bone, washes, highlights, texture paints, and more. A spray primer can cost around $24. Special cutters can cost more than $50. Painting handles, files, glue, brushes, palettes, basing materials, storage foam, measuring tools, dice, objective markers, and gaming mats all appear quietly around the edges. No single item destroys the wallet. That is the genius. It bleeds slowly. A player does not usually spend $1,000 in one dramatic moment. They spend $40 here, $70 there, a new squad, a new character, a tank, a book, a limited edition release, a model that looks too beautiful to ignore, and then one day they look at a shelf and realize they have built a small plastic empire. A full army can easily move from several $100s into the thousands, especially when players want variety, competitive options, multiple factions, or painted models from commission artists. Professional miniature painters can charge serious money because the work is slow. A single character can take hours. A full army can take weeks. At that point, the models are no longer just game pieces, they are custom art objects, and this is where the outsider's question changes. The real question is not, why is plastic expensive? The real question is, why does it feel worth it? Part of the answer is ownership. A Warhammer army is not bought finished, it is created. The player chooses the faction, chooses the color scheme, chooses the weapons, chooses the poses, adds damage, adds mud, adds blood, adds names. That tiny captain on the table is not just a miniature. He is your captain. You built him, you painted him, you remember the night you stayed up fixing his sword, you remember the mistake on the shoulder pad, you remember the first game where he survived against impossible odds. This creates attachment, not logical attachment, emotional attachment, the same kind people feel toward a restored car, a handmade guitar, a childhood comic collection. Warhammer also gives adults something many lose after childhood: permission to imagine. Modern adult life is efficient. Bills, emails, deadlines, notifications. Warhammer is slow, painfully slow. You sit down with one model, one brush, one color, and the world gets quiet. For many people, painting becomes meditation. The phone goes away, the noise drops, the hands move, the mind settles. That is rare, and rare things become valuable. Then there is nostalgia. Many Warhammer players first saw the hobby as children. A shop window, a painted space marine, a white dwarf magazine, a friend's older brother with a huge army. They could not afford it then, but they remembered it. Years later, with adult money, they return. This time, nobody can say no. That is a powerful force, a child's dream with an adult's bank account. But Warhammer is not only private, it is social. Walk into a Warhammer store, and you do not just see products, you see recruitment. Staff teach newcomers how to build, how to paint, how to play. Local clubs form around tables. Friendships form around armies. Rivalries form around dice. People meet every week to push painted soldiers across ruined cities and argue about line of sight. To outsiders, it looks like a game. To players, it becomes a tribe. The army becomes a flag. Space Marine players are not the same as Orc players. TOE players are not the same as Chaos players. Each faction says something. Some players want honor, some want speed, some want monsters, some want machines, some want madness. The faction becomes a personality test made of plastic. Competition adds another layer. Warhammer is a creative hobby, but it is also a game with winners and losers. Rules change. New editions arrive. New army books appear. A unit that was weak last year can become powerful. A model that sat untouched on a shelf can suddenly become essential. Competitive players chase the meta, collectors chase beauty, lore fans chase story, painters chase perfection. Games Workshop sits at the center of all of it, not selling one product, selling reasons to keep caring. That is why the business works. In 2025, Games Workshop reported core revenue of £565 million. Total revenue reached £617.5 million. Profit before tax reached £262.8 million. This is not a tiny niche anymore. This is a global machine powered by tiny soldiers. By the end of that reporting period, the company had 570 of its own stores across 24 countries. And those stores are only part of the network. Thousands of independent retailers also sell Warhammer. The hobby feels underground, but the numbers say otherwise. Then there are the extremes, the deep end, the place where Warhammer stops looking like a hobby and starts looking like a life's work. Some collectors own entire rooms of models, not shelves, rooms, armies from different eras. Boxes that are no longer made, metal figures from the 1980s, limited edition characters, rare event models, old rulebooks, unopened starter sets, painted armies with thousands of points. There are giant resin kits like the TOE Manta, a massive aircraft model famous in the community for its size, price, and difficulty. Videos about it describe a model costing around $1,700 and weighing over 12 kilos. That is no longer a toy, that is a monument. And then there are battles so large they sound fictional. One famous YouTube battle claimed 300,000 points of Warhammer 40,000, more than 10,000 miniatures. 5 days, over 200 hours of setup, play, arguments, laughter, and dice. Imagine that, thousands of painted soldiers covering tables like a plastic apocalypse. Most people will never play anything that large, but they understand the fantasy. Warhammer scales with obsession. You can own one model, or you can build a galaxy. That is the secret. It never really ends. There is always another army, another hero, another color scheme, another campaign, another box. Another version of yourself waiting behind the next purchase. And yes, it is expensive, sometimes absurdly expensive, but people do not spend thousands because the plastic itself is worth thousands. They spend because of what the plastic becomes: a memory, a project, a community, a skill, a story, a battlefield where their imagination still has permission to breathe. To an outsider, it is just plastic soldiers. To a Warhammer player, it is a universe they can hold in their hands. And maybe that is why adults keep coming back, not because they refuse to grow up, but because they found one place where growing up did not require them to abandon wonder. So the next time you see someone carefully painting a tiny warrior under a desk lamp, remember this: you are not looking at a toy, you are looking at time, patience, identity, and a small piece of a much larger world. Subscribe to explore more hidden worlds, strange passions, and the fascinating hobbies people build their lives around. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about this topic, make sure to watch our next video in this series.